Well, hello there, and welcome to another casual Saturday lunch. Hope you're all well. It's been a pretty exciting week here in Melbourne. You may have seen some things on the news. I know that my rallies overseas have seen lots of things on the news. I've been getting phone calls and emails and messages, but we're all okay. We're still standing. House is still standing. So if you don't know, here in Melbourne this week, we've had all sorts of things going on. We've had kind of riots, we've had unrest, and we've had an earthquake, just to throw that into the mix as well. Not sort of like the exciting stuff I really like to have in my life, but you can't pick and choose. Okay, so back for another casual Saturday lunch. Now, if you've been to a casual Saturday lunch before with me, you will know I'm probably wearing something a little bit different. Yep, it's grand final day and all these supporters come out of the woodwork. I'm one of them. And you might see I've got see here, that's Melbourne football team top on there. Now I've got little pink ladies on it because see, there's a little pink lady at the side there. Isn't she cute? So a number of years ago, I went to the MCG when we were allowed to go to the football matches because there was a pink lady match, and this is for Breast Cancer Network Australia, and the Melbourne football team have special jerseys made, and I got one, so I'm wrapped in this. Now, I don't want to get my grubby food all over my nice jersey, so I'm going to pop a pinny on, an apron. Where is it? Here it is. I might leave that for a minute. My husband hates all of my aprons. Honestly, he just hates them. I don't know why. This one's actually really tricky to go on, and he particularly dislikes this one. So I'll put that on in a minute. I try to wear this as often as I can. Just pop that there. Now today I'm going to be cooking a chili, and it's a bean chili. And the reason I'm doing that is that, well, there's lots of reasons for cooking this bean chili. So this recipe I've got in our COVID handout. So people who have had COVID or have COVID often experience a lot of smell and taste changes, and they can be pretty awful. And there's a few things on the list for people with COVID that's like these trigger ingredients, and we try and steer clear of all of those. So one of them is onion. Now, I am going to be using an onion in it, but just keep in mind, if you are making this for someone who is experiencing, it's called peroxima, where the smell goes really funny, it goes really off. Everything basically smells disgusting, and all disgusting things sort of smell kind of okay. Onions and garlic are two of the real trigger foods for that. So we try and leave those out of anything that we're cooking for somebody with issues with COVID and their taste and smell. It's okay to put in for somebody who has taste and smell changes because of their cancer treatment though. So that's one reason we're doing this recipe. Another reason is it's also vegetarian. So we're using beans and lentils for this one today. Another reason for that is cooked meats, so like roasted meats or anything done with a bit of browning on the pan for people with COVID. That's another one of those trigger smells they don't like. And also people going through cancer treatment often go off red meat, and also it can have a metallic taste. So that's why we're doing this as a vegetarian one as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just start, as I said, with the COVID, you don't want to be using the onion, but I'm going to use it for this one anyway. Now, the thing I like about chilies is you can actually choose whether you actually want to have chili in them or not. And there are some things we like to use when people have lost their sense of taste and smell. You need all of these other cues in the food. This is not peeling very well. You need all these other cues in the food that will help you realise that you're actually, eating something yummy and give you just that extra layer of interest in it. And chili's one of those things. So it stimulates the trigeminal nerve. Now, the trigeminal nerve, here we go, head and neck anatomy lesson, is the fifth cranial nerve, and it's broken up into three branches. So you have the ophthalmic branch, the mandibular, it is, mandibular branch, and the maxillary branch. So the mandibular branch sort of concentrates on around the tongue and the jaw, the mandible. And so those branches of the trigeminal nerve lie just under the tongue. So they're the ones where you experience what's called pain. So it's like the heat of chilies, the coolness of mint, that type of thing. Now, the maxillary branch is sort of, it's where you get that tingling when you've had some wasabi, you get that tingling up your nose. And the ophthalmic branch is the one that's responsible for, again, like when you've had the wasabi, you get the tears in the eyes. So they're just, in the absence of things not, of being tasting really bland, they're these sort of extra things you can think about when adding into food. So things like, cinnamon, depending on where you are, cinnamon can either be perceived as, having a warming effect in the mouth, or it be a cooling effect, depending on how you use it. Different countries use it differently and have different perceptions of it, which is really interesting. So we're going to use some of that as well in this recipe. Really good thing about this recipe, look, if you don't have, we've got the recipe, where is it? It's just here. In our little COVID handout, we've got this recipe, and just go and download it at the website. It's free to download. But you can just make anything that you have with it. So I think I've got red kidney beans in that. I think I've got some black beans in it and some cannellini beans. But today, because I don't really have any of those things in the house, I'm going to be just using a tin of the 4-bean mix and a tin of lentils, just like. So you don't, if you don't have the exact things, it doesn't matter. Just make up what you've got. Some sort of tin of beans that you've got. Lentils is just fine as well. Okay, so to that I'm just going to add, a little drip of olive oil. You can, I haven't used this before, right? You can use ghee as well. Ghee, gives an added depth of flavour into this sort of recipe, and that's another thing that we talk about when we're trying to get extra flavour in. There's some big flavours in there called umami, so it's like the fifth of our basic flavours and basic tastes, and things like tomato, especially dried tomatoes. So I'm using sun-dried tomatoes in this today. That's one of them that if you want to get real meatiness into a recipe, I'll be using that. Now let's just have this on. Had a bit of an issue with the gas last night. It's sort of, something else exciting happening in Melbourne in my house. Is it just sort of kind of nearly went in my face? I've got something to stir. Oh, that's right. I need to put on my apron because I don't want to get my jersey dirty. Does anybody else have real trouble with putting on these cross-back aprons? I have to stand and sort of kind of figure it out first. I think, oh, that's right. Goes over my head. Oh, sorry, I'm out of camera. Goes over my head first. That's all good. Let's put that on over there. Oh, it's kind of, sort of. There we go. Yep. Sorry, it's rustling around a bit. Okay, there we go. Protect that nice pink jersey. So just going to let this fry up a bit. Now, so I'm going to talk about some things that are going in it. As I said, I don't have, like the pouch of beans that I talk about in the recipe. So a good 4-bean mix. This one's also really good for anybody who has doesn't have a lot of energy left from their can. You go through, could hardly get my head off the pillow when I was going through my treatment. So there wasn't any energy for cooking, basically. So pretty much everything's coming out of a tin today. So don't shoot me. Lots of fresh stuff in tins. And some really good flavours as well. Now, I'm just going to drain these. I don't know why. I think it's comes from my mother. I've always drained these and I've rinsed them. So I'll just be back. So I'm still here. So I'm just rinsing, getting this tin of beans out, trying to get every last one out from the bottom there. Right. Now that's going to go everywhere. So I'm going to see if I can... Oh, that's just asking for trouble, that is. Okay, so this is frying up a bit here. Now, where are we? Did anybody else feel anything with the earthquake? I know in Melbourne we're upstairs, and instead of being at the top of the house, everything was really, really wobbly. And I keep all of my my food photography props up there, and I thought they were all going to land on the floor and break. It was awful. So but I wasn't concerned. They can all be replaced. What I was concerned about was when the windows started to flex in and out, and that was a concern. So at that point, I grabbed the cat and I ran downstairs and ran outside. I wasn't screaming, but I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as I possibly could. Okay, so that's doing there. I should have had these on before you arrived here. And okay, so as I said, I've got the 4-bean mix. I've got lentils, tin of tomatoes. I've got some sun-dried tomatoes to add that extra oomph in the flavour there. And I may or may not put in some corn. Now, as far as chilliness and flavouring goes, I'm going to be using the sriracha chilli sauce. I love this stuff. It's sort of kind of like a gentle chilli, so you can just add a drop at a time, or a bit of a squirt at a time, just so you don't overdo it. I'm also going to be putting in some smoky paprika, because it's just my favourite thing. And I'm going to put in some cinnamon. So I can either put in some cinnamon or some maple syrup. Reason for that is if you want a bit of sweetness, say everything is tasting a bit metallic-y, it's actually a really good one for covering up metallic taste, is adding in sweetness. Or I could use this. This is from Mingle Seasonings, and they're really good. I'm not sponsored by them at all, but I talk about this stuff all the time. It's a Mexican spice seasoning, so if you don't want to add in this, that and the other, put in this instead. Really easy to do. And if you don't have any sun-dried tomatoes, look, I've got their nice tomato sauce, hardly any sugar in it, which is why I like it. So you could use that in place of sun-dried tomatoes, but you probably need something really tomatoey in here that's concentrated, more so than just the tin of tomatoes. Okay, and at the end, and trust me on this one, this makes all the difference to this recipe, is going to have some sherry vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, red wine vinegar will do just as well with this. Now I could probably move this, oh, look at all this stuff here. Give that a stir around. Oh, my trivets on the cooktop aren't even, and every time I make something and stir something, it just rattles in this house. Okay, so I might turn that down a bit. And we're going to add in these beans. I just drained and didn't think about where I was going to put them afterwards. So they're in. And sizzle a bit. We're going to have this tin of lentils in as well, if I can get the top off. Oh, we're just going to... Okay, so I'm still here. Again, I'm draining. Just draining a bit of those. It's a bit too much juice otherwise in there. So those in as well. I love these little tin lentils. They're just so handy to have. There we go. So it might get a bit steamy. A bit steamy here. Have that up a bit. Look, I probably would have cooked those onions down a bit more if I wasn't, doing this live. But it'll still cook down. And to that, I'm also going to add the tin of tomatoes. So it's basically just a case. I can't do that with my flimsy nails. My nails never return very well after chemo. They're still a bit thin. Oh, gosh. It's just as well it's kitchen cleaning day today. Have those in there, over there. Now this will actually cook down to be nice and thick. It looks a bit watery at the minute, but again, cook it to the consistency that you'd like it, because the reason for that is, if you've got a dry mouth and throat, you need something that has more moisture in it and is a bit more, more wet. Otherwise, you can have it nice and thick and concentrated, but you can still, again, at the end of it though, if you still need something to make it quite moist and help it slide down easier, use some, what's it called? Mental block, sour cream on top, or stir it through. Gives it a really nice lift as well. So just make that one go up. Okay, so let's have some chilli in there. Oh, I don't know how, I don't measure it, I just do that. That's as good as it gets. Okay. Oh, hello, Cancer Coach. How are you today? How are things in your part of the world? Hope you're not having earthquakes like we did. Okay, so we're just going to stir that round. I'm not going to try it live on air because it's all just going to go over me, and it'll be hot as well. So this will cook down nicely, I think, when we eventually get it going. Now the sun-dried tomatoes, I just think sun-dried tomatoes just give everything a lift, and it's because of that umami flavour in them, and they're right up on the umami scale. So we're going to have a good few of those in there as well. Now, I was just talking about dry mouth and throat, ooh, see, just as well. Difficulty swallowing, you'd still be able to have this, and how you would do it is basically blend it up. So you could have it like a soup. So you'd still get the same flavours, but you're changing the consistency. And that's the trick to doing a lot of this, is just working out how you still can enjoy what you like to have, but changing it to suit your current situation. There we go. And if your taste is bland, everything's tasting a bit like cardboard and what have you, and you need those extra cues. I know we've got the chili in there to stimulate the trigeminal nerve and get that bit of zing in the mouth. But if you need a bit of crunch, you know, shouldn't be underestimated. So the crunchy things, this recipe actually is done with some potato rosties. So with the rosties, what I would do there is actually make them really quite small, but make them very crisp. So cook them in ghee, give them that extra layer of flavour with the ghee, but make them really crisp. So you can just sort of like pop them on or in at the last moment when you're eating, you've got that crisp in there. Something else I really like using to get some texture into food is water chestnuts. You're thinking, hang on, this is really odd because you're cooking chili. But how I'd add the water chestnuts to this is sort of right at the end of the cooking process, because you don't want them to go soft. You want them to stay with that crunch. So use some water chestnuts. So you've got a bit of added interest in the mouth. And I know a lot of people say, you know, it's not really down to smell, down to sound, but when you hear crunching as well, you know there's something else going on in the mouth. So you can hear my cat there. So when things are really bland, you just want to add in as many layers as you can. This is bubbling up nicely. Oh, there we go. I forgot to put in that smoked paprika. I would normally put it in when the beans are in there before all of the tomato goes in, but never mind. I'm putting it in now. Oh, it's one of my favourite things, really is. That. I'm also going to put in a bit of cinnamon. As I discussed before, the cinnamon, depending on where you are in the world, can either have a cooling or a warming effect, depending on how you grew up and recognise it in food and cooking. There we go. So this is actually thickening up already. And one other way that you can get that crunch in there is, like, I love to just have this on toast. So do some, you know, a nice bit of toast, but don't put your chili on top of it. It'll make it go soggy. Just, you know, cut off a little bit each time you put in a mouthful, and you get that crunch of toast in there as well. Okay, I don't know if you can see, oh, you might be able to see it there. It is getting a little bit thicker as we go. There we are. Okay, now just for fun, I am going to, because this is really cool, this mingle tomato sauce. They've got a barbecue sauce and a sweet chili sauce as well. The fact that it's really low in sugar just ticks my box. Anyway, and I did say I was going to put in a bit of maple syrup. Again, you might think that's really odd, but it will help if there's anything that's, you know, tasting too salty or metallic-y. Okay, look at that. So that hasn't taken very long at all. As I say, if you've just joined me, if you were making this because of peroxima due to COVID, we wouldn't be putting in the onion, because that's one of the trigger foods along with the garlic. Just keep those out. And we state that in the recipe in the download anyway. That's coming up nice and thick. And I don't think I put the corn in it today. I just don't feel like corn. There we go. Now, we've had a good old discussion about the trigeminal nerve, the fifth cranial nerve. I always knew that my head and neck anatomy at university would come in handy for something like this. So before I started doing what I'm doing now, I used to be an orthoptist. So that's eyes, not feet, which is why head and neck anatomy was one of my favourite subjects, and we had to do it for at least 2 years at uni. Okay, so this has come down, and this will probably, you know, if you just let it blip away, it will become nice and thick. And again, if you need to put it in the blender, if there's trouble swallowing, then I would do that. But we'll have a bit of this sherry vinegar in there. As I say, if you don't have sherry vinegar, then red wine vinegar will do as well. Just, I don't know what it is, but just gives that added oomph and texture to it. Layer of flavour in there. And all it takes is really that, and that's it. Okie dokie. There we go. So I will do that. I don't know if you can hear my cats meowing. My husband's on a Zoom call to his family in America. It's all going here. Okay, so I'm going to let that probably blip away for another 5 minutes and thicken up. But that's, I don't know what we would call that today. That's bean chili. It's like 3, 4, 5 bean chili, depending on the beans that you have. But we've got that recipe. I did this, was it this Wednesday or Wednesday before? It's actually on our newsfeed. It was What's Cooking Wednesday recipe. So the recipe's on there already, and we've got some of the little explanations about how to change it for different COVID side effects and different chemo side effects. So there you go. I hope you make that and enjoy that. But this is Casual Saturday Lunch, and I'll be back next week with something else. Stay safe and well wherever you are, and go the Melbourne Demons. Bye for now.